Kaya Dark Lineage was a game I'd never even heard of until a few months ago, and now I've finished it, and man, what a journey. But did I enjoy it? Is it one you should get your hands on? Well, I don't actually know yet. I'm hoping we'll figure that out together by the end of the video because I have so many thoughts swirling around in my brain right now. So let's dive into this obscure PS2 platformer and figure out if Kaya Dark Lineage really is a forgotten gem. It was first released on November 18th, 2003 and developed by Eden Games, a French studio most well known for Test Drive Unlimited 1 and 2, the Gear Club Unlimited series, Smurfs Kart and Garfield Kart 2 All You Can Drift. The eagle-eyed among you might have noticed that these are all racing games, so yes, Kaya is one of the only times Eden has tried something different. We start here in the bedroom of our main protagonist, Kaya, who lives with her half-brother Frank in the house of Kaya's dad, who abandoned her years ago. Why do they both live in Kaya's dad's house? No idea. Not even 5 minutes in and we've already got some family drama, and I do love myself a bit of family drama. Frank wakes up Kaya by smashing through a wall, which has revealed a secret room on the other side. Things go pear-shaped, however, when they find a medallion and it opens a portal to another world. Kaya asks Frank how he even had the idea to break down the wall and find this room. His eyes go red and his voice turns deep and he says,
I don't know. Just
a feeling, I guess.
This is never explained or brought up ever again, and they both get sucked into the portal. Now, I don't want to start off too negative, but I've got to say the voice acting isn't amazing, and neither is the writing.
Yeah, but your dad never abandoned you. Neither me, in fact.
What does that even mean? Did he abandon you or not? To be fair, it might just be a slightly wonky French to English translation. Frank finds himself chased by creatures called Wolfen and is captured by the main bad guy, Brazil. Brazil is surprised that humans have come through the portal, and thanks to this extraordinary bit of luck, he decides to use Frank as a human guinea pig for his experiments. Kaya, on the other hand, wakes up to find a gathering of creatures called natives staring at her. That's N-A-T-I-V. Must have taken them ages to come up with that one. Okay, yes, I'm being a bit harsh. The natives are actually quite likeable. They help Kaya escape from a pack of Wolfen in one of the longest chase sequences I've ever played in a game and introduce her to the village leader, Ataya.
You look confused. I would be too if I were you. Luckily, I'm not you. I'm me. Tough crowd, I'll say.
Ataya reveals that Brazil is actually Kaya's dad. I know that sounds like a massive spoiler, but it happens right at the beginning of the game. On the one hand, I respect that they just front-loaded the story with what would be a massive twist in any other fantasy tale, but on the other hand, it does feel a bit sudden. Kaya's immediate reaction is one of disbelief.
My dad? My stupid, lousy, worthless dad?
She says that she's going to save her brother from Brazil's clutches and return home. To do that, she needs to find 7 runes, which when combined together with a receptacle, form a medallion like the one they used to get here, and that medallion is going to help them get back to their world. So to make sure she's not immediately wolf food, the natives teach her a variety of combat moves and give her the ability to exercise Wolfen using magic, revealing that they're actually natives who have been transformed by Brazil. We'll go into more detail about this mechanic later. For now, off Kaya goes and the adventure truly begins. Dark Lineage is a platformer, so the game is divided into several areas that Kaya can jump, slide and fight her way through. But a cool thing about this game is that they're semi-connected. It's not open world as such, but you can reach different areas by, for example, getting shot out of a cannon, which is always fun. There's a fast travel system as well called shell elevators, which I think is a real missed opportunity. Should have been called shell elevators. One thing that makes a platformer good is variety, and boy does this game have variety. There's a lot to cover, but why don't we start with the general movement. Kaya can jump, as I said, and if she jumps close to a ledge, she'll grab onto it. You can then make her shimmy across or hop up onto the platform. Next, Kaya can crouch, which is extremely useful in certain situations, as I found out very late into the game. With the square button, she throws her boomy, which is a boomerang, and it's used to smash crates, hit switches, or distract enemies. When approaching a climbable wall, you'll get a prompt to press the square button, a bit like Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Feels weird comparing this game to one that came out decades later, but it's literally the first comparison that came to my mind, so I'm going with it. Kaya's movement is good overall, I think, except for climbing. For whatever reason, her animations last a lot longer than it takes to press the analog stick in a direction, so even if you let go of the analog stick, she'll carry on moving for about half a second longer. That's quite annoying and means you have to predict where she's going to be half a second into the future. When dealing with precarious situations like this, when you try not to be blown off a building by high-speed winds, it can be a bit of a detriment. But speaking of high-speed winds, look at this. This right here is such an inventive bit of platforming design. The wind is blowing so fast that Kaya is pinned to the wall, which means that she can climb it as long as she's in the cone of wind. She can even jump because she'll just be blown right back onto it. It's such a cool idea. I mean, yes, the delayed climbing animations are still an annoyance, but I feel like the inventive design is enough to counteract that. Another thing I really enjoyed were these sliding sections. At first, Kaya slides with her feet, but you can buy a board later on. They are a bit long, these sections, but I found them exhilarating and the controls are actually quite smooth. Sometimes slides like this in platformers can be a bit too slippery, but here I think they found the right balance. And then there's the jam gut. Yeah, you heard me right, the jam gut. It's a species of animal that Kaya can ride and it's powerful enough to smash anything that gets in its way, including enemies. Doesn't matter what size they are, the jam gut shows no mercy. It also has the best piece of music in the game as its backing track. The developers clearly agree with me because they chose to play that same music over the end credits. Jam gut is just a really fun mechanic and they came up with some awesome ways to use it. Take this bit for example, where you have to stand on top of the jam gut and jump onto a moving crate Clint Eastwood style. Or this section that blew me away when you've got to jump on and off a train at high speed. Uncharted 2 has nothing on Kaya Dark Lineage. But as much as I like the variety and the inventive ideas, there's one thing that proved to be a bit of a thorn in my side. The camera. It's janky, annoying. You've probably noticed just by watching the footage so far. I understand that it's a game from 2003 when 3D camera movement was still in a bit of a Wild West era, but if I look at it from the perspective of someone trying to get into it now for the first time, like you watching this video, it's something you'll just need to get used to. It's not the worst camera I've ever experienced though. Right, I think it's time that I talked about the combat because it's a massive part of this game. One of the most important parts of it actually. Kaya's main enemies are the Wolfen, who, as I said before, are natives that have been transformed by Brazil. When Kaya approaches them, she seamlessly transitions into a fighting stance and the controls switch over to a kind of beat 'em up mode. Pressing square and triangle makes her punch and kick, and you can switch up button presses to perform different combos. There are different bracelets in the village hub, which I'll talk about later, but each bracelet unlocks new combos and abilities like being able to grab enemies and dodge their attacks. I have mixed feelings about the combat. It's satisfying to smack Wolfen around, but they'll often block your attacks. To counter that, you need to switch up your combos, or use the unlockable grab, or let them try to attack you so that they drop their guard. And while that sounds fine, it got on my nerves because the Wolfen blocks so often, and sometimes, even if you try switching up your combos, none of them will hit, and if you try to grab them, sometimes they'll just effortlessly dodge away from it. It's especially exhausting with these larger Wolfen. The smaller ones you can kind of brute force your way to victory with quite easily, but the larger ones are no pushovers. Even if you do manage to land a hit, they'll often fall onto the ground and have invincibility frames while they get back up. It really tried my patience by the end of the game, especially when the one hit I did manage to pull off on a powerful Wolfen only took a tiny bite out of their health bar. Now, earlier in the video, I said that Kaya gains the ability to exercise Wolfen. Here's what that means. Throughout the game, you'll collect these greenish orbs of magic. When you knock out a Wolfen, you'll see a number appear above them. That's how many of the green orbs you need to exercise them. And just so we're clear, I mean exercise as in exercising demons, not exercising as in taking them for a walk. Although I definitely would have loved to have seen that. Exercising Wolfen is what you need to do to unlock new shops in the village hub, and you need to buy certain key items to progress, so it's an important mechanic. Smaller Wolfen need less orbs to be turned back into natives, while the bigger ones need up to 50 orbs. You start with a maximum of 50 orbs, so naturally there's an upgrade system. Remember those runes Kaya is supposed to be collecting? Well, each one you collect grants Kaya an extra 50 orbs maximum, with the highest amount being 500. A couple of runes are on the main story path, but the others you'll have to go out of your way to find. The problem I have with this system is that when you run out of orbs, because you will run out of orbs, you can't exercise Wolfen anymore. I know that sounds obvious, but bear with me here. It means you'll have to backtrack later to exercise the Wolfen that you missed on the way if you're going for 100% completion. And then there's the fact that if Wolfen fall off a ledge, you can't exercise them, so you need to reload the area by deliberately dying or come back later. And then there's the slightly baffling decision to include stealth in this game, which encourages you to sneak past Wolfen that are armed with powerful sniper rifles and machine guns. This confused me. My goal is to exercise all the Wolfen, so why would I sneak past them? What's the point? And if you're spotted by a Wolfen with a gun, it's nearly impossible to get close enough to start punching them. Their bullets will just constantly push Kaya back. There's no item you can get later on that makes this any easier, as far as I'm aware, except for health upgrades, so I'm confused. Why is stealth a thing in this game? I'm just going to beat them all up anyway, because that's the whole point of the game. It just feels like these two huge mechanics were fighting against each other, which is really weird. There is one part of the stealth that I enjoyed though. If you hide behind something and hit one wolfen in a group with your boomy, they'll turn around and blame the wolfen next to them. Hit them again and they'll start fighting the other wolfen until one of them is knocked out. That's awesome. Don't do it if the wolfen are near a ledge though, because one of them will get knocked off and you won't be able to exercise them. Oh, that reminds me of this time I accidentally knocked a wolfen down a hole, one I had to jump down anyway, and well, you can see how painful it looked for the poor guy. It was super cinematic though. And can we talk about the dogs? The dogs! These things were an absolute nightmare. They can't be attacked, and if they catch you, you'll respawn at the most recent checkpoint. I got caught by these things more times than I can count. They home in on you like ballistic missiles. It was only at the end of the game, through pure desperation, that I tried crouching, which is how I learned that's the best way to deal with them. They'll soar right over Kai's head, allowing her to run away. But even then, you need to time it right. These dogs are so incredibly frustrating. They can be thrown into the nearest black hole for all I care, and I consider myself a dog person. While I'm on the subject of things that can be thrown into black holes, this section here, where you control a wolf and blimp, can join them. You have to step on 2 buttons to make the blimp move forward or stop. These mushroom things are flotation devices which are normally used to land safely after Kaya skydives, and if they get hit by fire, or anything for that matter, they'll pop. Furthermore, this section lasts for ages, and if you die, you'll go back to the very beginning. I absolutely hated it. I don't know what it was about PS2 games in this era being absolutely allergic to reasonable checkpoints. And then there's a bit where you have to kick this thing called a Mikken across precarious platforms, which goes on for ages, and you guessed it, if the Mikken falls off the edge, you have to go all the way back to the beginning. Mikken are creatures that Kaya can jump on to reach higher ledges, by the way, and they also help solve puzzles. They get a lot of abuse by Kaya in this game actually, which makes me quite sad. Right, that's enough venting. Let's talk about the village hub. Like I mentioned, the more natives you rescue, the more shops you unlock. And the more shops you unlock, the more items you can buy. The currency is called Newties, and they can be found mainly by breaking crates. I recommend getting as many Newties as you can find, because some of these shop items are expensive. The hub also contains several mini games you can play for fun, which is cool. And if you go up to one of the villages, you'll be able to get some dialogue out of them. One handy thing is that if the game wants you to buy an important item, it will signpost which shop you need to go to so you don't get lost. Oh, here's a funny thing that happened. I bought the telescope early on, which allows you to zoom into the distance, but then I looked through it and it was cracked. The shopkeeper sold me a broken telescope, the little rascal. I love it. It's a tiny thing, but it made the world feel slightly more immersive. There are consumables, by the way, in the form of bombs and recovery fruit. I didn't really use the fruit or bombs except for one instance where I needed electric bombs to progress. For most of the game, I chose to spend my hard-earned cash on more meaningful upgrades like the bracelets or extra health bars. Okay, let's talk about the graphics and sound design now. Honestly, I think the game looks good. The way the world is built varies from greenery to quarries, and there's a makeshift vibe to the native village and wolfen encampments. It actually reminds me a little bit of Rayman 3 Hoodlum Havoc, and that's a good thing as far as I'm concerned. The music is also quite pleasant to listen to for the most part, although saying that, there only seems to be a couple of tracks for combat with wolfen, which reminds me a little bit of Sonic Unleashed, and not in a good way. But generally, the soundtrack is as fantastical as you'd expect. As I've already mentioned, the Jam Gut theme is great, really adventurous, and made me want to stay on it for as long as possible. So now that we've gone over most of the game, I want to talk about the ending of the story. If you don't want major spoilers, feel free to skip to the next chapter of the video or the timestamp that I'll put on screen. Alright, here we go. Kaya does eventually find her half-brother Frank, but she's too late to stop him from being transformed into a wolfen. Kaya beats him up and turns him back into a human, saving him at last. As for Brazil, well, he manages to capture Kaya and imprison her, where he then reveals that he's not human at all, but an interdimensional alien, meaning that Kaya is too.
You're a monster! You're inhuman!
Ah, interesting choice of words. I never said I was human, my dear. When I came to the natives' world, it wasn't the first time I had changed worlds. My people were exterminated a long time ago, when they banished me from this world.
But if you're not human, then I'm...
A bastard, thinking you know everything.
It's a cool revelation, but it doesn't really go anywhere story-wise. Nothing changes as a result of this new information. Kaya manages to escape from the prison and confronts Brazil for the last time. She beats him in one-on-one combat and lets him fall to his death, showing not a single ounce of emotion other than a stern look on her face. Having found all the runes, the medallion is finally complete, so Kaya and Frank say goodbye to the natives and go through the newly created portal. However, they have no way of controlling which world the portal links to, so they end up in a desert where an unseen creature leaps at them them, much to their horror. And that's where the game ends. Yep, that's it. Dark Lineage never got a sequel, so I can only assume that Kaya and Frank end up as an alien's lunch. What a way to go. There's no extra scene for getting 100% either, as far as I can tell. Overall, I have to say that the story feels really unfinished. Rizal shows no emotion towards Kaya at all, barely even registering that she's his daughter, and likewise, Kaya shows no emotion towards her dad, apart from the stern look at the end and calling him worthless at the beginning. Also, what happened to Frank when he seemed to be possessed by something before they went through the portal at the very start? That's never explained. Frank isn't related to Brazil in any way, so it can't be a family thing, and Brazil was surprised that the two of them went through the portal, so it can't have been him that caused it. Maybe it was going to be explained in a sequel. Anyway, that's it for spoilers. The story isn't amazing, but is the gameplay good enough to make up for it? It is an action platformer after all, the gameplay should be the main focus. Well, I think it depends on how sensitive you are to jank. There's quite a bit of it here, mainly concentrated around the camera, combat, stealth and platforming, so the entire game I guess. But the overall adventure is full of cool ideas and the jank isn't awful, just irritating by modern standards, so it's a difficult one. I think if you're really into platformers and you like really obscure PS2 games, then it is worth playing, but only if you can get it at a decent price. To answer the question I posed at the very start of the video, no, I don't think it is a forgotten gem. It's an okay but heavily flawed game that time has mostly forgotten. I do think that's a shame. I may not have loved it, but Kaya Dark Lineage clearly had a lot of hard work put into it, and I think I would have liked to have seen a sequel. What could Eden Games have accomplished if they'd been given the chance to iron out some of the kinks and follow up on the story? I think that would have been interesting. But that's it from me. Thank you so much for watching. Smash the like button if you enjoyed this look back at Kaya Dark Lineage, and subscribe to the channel for future uploads. Have a great day or night wherever or whenever you are, and I will see you next time.